I should get up and go to bed, but I'm so comfortable on this couch. I'm just gonna take a nap right here.
Boo! Wake up, George! Wake up!
Yeah, what the hell?
It's me, the ghost of Christmas past.
No, you're not.
Yes, I am.
No, you're not. You're John Hughes.
How do you know that?
I know what you look like. Why are you in my house? I thought you only came up from hell to bother Joe.
Well, I got tired of talking to a black person.
Hey, don't assume I'm a racist piece of shit like you, fartface. Why are you pretending to be the ghost of Christmas past anyway?
I've always wanted to be a ghost.
Why, so you could walk through walls?
No, so I can be white. Casper the Friendly Ghost is my one true god.
Get the fuck out of here.
Okay, I'm not the ghost of Christmas past, but I do have a message for you.
Why me?
You're about to watch Home Alone for your podcast, right?
Yeah, so?
That's my movie. That's what I'm here to tell you. I don't want you embarrassing yourself when you discuss the film. You've seen the film dozens of times, but somehow you missed my name in the credits.
Yeah, I watched the movie as a child.
So what? Couldn't you read? Were you stupid and blind? What am I asking? You live in Jersey City. Blind and stupid is this town's motto.
We're both about to find out if a dead man can piss blood.
I'm going. Just remember I wrote and produced Home Alone.
Why would you care if I embarrass myself?
I don't care if you embarrass yourself. I care if you embarrass the white race. Are you not paying attention to who I am?
Get the fuck out now.
Yeah, I'm done here.
Go back to hell.
I'm actually going back to Florida, but, common mistake.
Welcome to Does This Still Work? The podcast looks at always and asks, does this still work? I'm Joe Dixon.
And I'm George Romacka. And today we're discussing Home Alone from 1990 and some historical context. First, podcasty stuff. You can reach us at dtswpod@gmail.com, on Facebook, Letterboxd, and our YouTube channel. Joe is on Blue Sky at joedixon.bsky.social. Please tell your friends about us, even the ones who keep running into that stupid fucking brass statue outside of your house, and leave 5-star ratings everywhere. You can pick what we watch and get extra per episode content by funding us on Patreon for as little as $1 a month at patreon.com/dtswpod. Now, Joe, take us back to 1990.
And that's the way it was.
As with most films that involve John Hughes, this movie is set in Illinois. In this case, the fictional town of Shermer, Illinois, which is supposed to exist as a suburb of Chicago.
You know, he came to visit me.
What's that?
Dead John Hughes. He came to my house. I was going to say broke into my house, but if you're dead, is it still considered a break-in?
I know I thought about it before, but I guess ghosts don't really break into houses. They're supposed to already have lived there and can't or won't leave. Anyway, the John Hughes of this podcast is probably more a demon than a ghost.
He's more of a racist than both of those things.
Wow, you really did meet him. What did Adolf Hollywood want?
Nothing. He just wanted to tell me his credits in the picture.
He left hell just to tell you that?
I think he was on his way to Florida.
Probably staying in Mar-a-Lago. Anyway, let's get back to this history corner. This 1990s movie is set in Illinois, so that's where we're going. Here are a few news stories from that time. Since the only aspect of this movie anybody cares about is the break-in, let's look at some unusual burglaries from that era.
Some people are going to be mighty disappointed because that's the part of the movie I talk the least about.
Well, we'll get into it. George, read this headline from the Breeze Journal.
Rash of burglaries hit county. Break-ins at local high schools.
I understand breaking into people's homes. I understand breaking into a high school if it's your rivals. But who breaks into a high school for money? I'm going to quote from the article. Central teacher Robert Pierce called the sheriff's department at about 7 a.m. when he noticed damage to a rolling iron gate separating the school's locker and commons areas. After further investigation, he found the school's office was broken into and a large hole had been created in the school's walk-in safe. Superintendent Robert Astroff said that an undetermined amount of money from the school's soda machine and checks for class rings and school lunches have been taken from the safe.
Who the fuck steals checks? God damn it.
Who does steal checks? Good question. But back to the article. Approximately $300 in damage was done to windows in the school's office and band room, and an undetermined amount of damage was done to the gate and a brick wall. We're really lucky that they didn't tear anything up, Astroff said. He said that no office or school equipment was damaged or missing. Evidently, they just wanted the money. End quote. Now, I would never in a million years think a high school is where the money is. How would you even know where to look? And how much could a high school even have in cash? The cost to get the materials to break in probably would cost as much as the money end up stealing. Also, high schools have walk-in safes?
Mm-hmm. Apparently. Like union offices.
And union offices, that's true. What was that, white?
Blue collar.
Blue collar. Yeah, the movie where if you join a union, you become racist for some reason.
Yep.
That's a whole other story. Anyway, I skimmed the article for some other high schools hit, and in one case, the burglars made off with a couple of grand and 2 round-trip tickets to Hawaii.
Don't those have people's names on them?
Yeah, it doesn't. What are you going to do with this stuff? It's weird. At least 8 high schools overall got broken into, and the most cash taken was $5 grand, which is wild. What kind of high school are these that has all this cash lying around? George, does it make any sense to you? How do they even know that these schools would have money?
I mean, I think it makes about as much sense as burglars stealing candle holders.
Well, candle, I guess you would sell, right?
You'd pawn, right? But who the fuck is buying their candle holders from pawn shops? You can go to Walmart and get them cheaper than you can in a friggin' pawn shop.
That's fair enough, true enough, yeah. But it's still wild to me. Who goes into... I would never think of that. Well, I'm breaking into all these places. Let me break into the school.
Breaking Bad did that to get stuff to make meth with from the chem lab. But
yes,
that's that. That's not this.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
That I get. But that isn't what these guys apparently were doing. Anyway, moving on. The criminals in this film are portrayed as idiots. But they clearly aren't.
Yes, they are.
They plan ahead. They even manage to get access to homes before they rob them. They don't just break in and take whatever they find, which must have been the case with this final story. George, read this headline from the Times Press.
Real quick, though, I will push back on that. I mean, they do a little bit of scouting work and whatever, but we'll get into exactly what of their aspects makes them just the dumbest motherfuckers on the face of the earth.
Well, okay, they do some dumb things, but they do plan ahead. They don't just break into a place.
Right. Okay.
The fact that he's smart enough to dress up as a cop and get access to the house... that takes a little bit of thought.
I mean, that just takes understanding that people, especially white people in suburbs, are conditioned to trust cops and people in cop outfits, and they don't really know how to tell the difference between a real cop and a fake cop if they're wearing the same fucking clothes.
Well, it shows it does have some intelligence, because a lot of people don't know that. Clearly, the fact that the people in the house didn't realize this.
I don't think it's their intelligence so much as everyone else's stupidity.
6 of one, half a dozen of another.
Yeah. All right. So here's the headline. Break-ins are under investigation. 2 Utes, since Joe Pesci is in this movie, are main suspects.
The Utes, what's a Ute? Hit 5 different businesses. They were a tanning salon, a hair salon, a place that sold appliances, a manufacturer of truck seats, and a railroad maintenance building. How much did they make from these heists? I will quote from the article. Streeter Police said investigating a rash of break-ins to local businesses Tuesday night that netted 2 burglars a grand total of $11.06. George, how is it possible that in 1990 Illinois, you get 5 different businesses and hit less than $12?
Well,
I mean, the schools had Hawaiian tickets, for God's sake.
I knew it wouldn't explain it, but I was curious what 1106 in 1990 was in 2024 dollars. It's $26.90 in 2024 dollars, so it's a little over $25. I don't know. Maybe they don't know what cash registers look like. And they were just getting whatever they found on the floor in spare change. Yeah, if they're breaking in at night, like most places empty their registers into a safe, or empty their registers into a safe that at the end of the day gets emptied into a bank. So, like, businesses don't tend to leave all that cash laying around.
No, I guess that's only schools that do that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it wasn't even... They broke into a safe in the school.
Yeah.
So they didn't leave it laying. Nobody leaves it. Apparently, people don't just leave money laying around.
Although it doesn't say how they got into the walk-in safe. Must have been pretty easy.
You just need some disguises, and bad ones at that, and a fairly easy to surprise guard. And I'm trying to remember the rest of how they did that in Blue Collar.
Another Blue Collar reference. Let's stick with this movie, shall we?
Okay,
George, tell us about Home Alone.
Alrighty. This was directed by Chris Columbus. No, not the guy that gave smallpox to Native Americans.
You know who was nominated for the part as the devil in Hell, and apparently he served that up for some time. That's according to our good friend John Hughes.
Yeah, and
the original Christopher Columbus.
In the cold open for our Breakfast Club episode. Yes.
Yes.
For the show, we've seen his directorial work in Rent, and I've seen his work in Bicentennial Man, a bunch of Harry Potter movies, and Night at the Museum.
I'm shocked that I haven't seen any Chris Columbus movies.
Yeah.
Except this, I guess. That's wild.
And this was written by John Hughes. For the show, we've seen his work in Flubber, Pretty in Pink, and Mr. Mom.
And I've seen his work in 16 Candles.
And I've seen his work in Uncle Buck and National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. And we've both seen his work in Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Didn't we used to have Uncle Buck on the list, but we've never actually watched it? I'm fairly certain you had Uncle Buck there. What happened to it?
I don't know.
Did we move it off the list at some point or something?
I don't think we ever put it on there. I think we've just mentioned it a bunch.
Huh. It's weird because we've done a bunch of John Candy supporting films, but I don't know if we've ever actually done the John Candy starring film.
Right? We are satellite fans of John Candy. Blurbs. IMDb says, an 8-year-old troublemaker mistakenly left home alone must defend his home against a pair of burglars on Christmas Eve. All right.
I object to the must, but we'll get into that.
I mean, yes, retreat was an option. YouTube says, 8-year-old Kevin McAllister has become the man of the house overnight. Accidentally left behind when his family rushes off on a Christmas vacation, Kevin gets busy decorating the house for the holidays. But he's not decking the halls with tinsel and holly. 2 bumbling burglars are trying to break in, and Kevin's rigging a bewildering battery of booby traps to welcome them.
Wow, that's a lot.
It's a lot, but it's not inaccurate.
No, it's not inaccurate.
And I gotta give them, like, an alliteration point for bewildering battery of booby traps.
Okay.
It's one of the better written blurbs. Despite and again, this was copy and pasted, there is a semicolon after the apostrophe in the last Kevin's that I didn't put there. I double checked. It's in the YouTube thing and nobody has saw fit to just fucking edit that. So anyway, typography critique aside, we open to some spooky minor keyed but still jingly music as we watch clouds pass the moon. We see in Shermer, Illinois, the enormous home of the McAllisters, every window, door, and bush decorated with white Christmas lights. Inside is a flurry of activity as 11 children, 5 boys and 6 girls of ages appearing to be 6 to 16 or so, and 2 sets of parents run around doing everything from packing suitcases to fighting with toy swords on a staircase.
Okay, in what reality would this family not have help? And there's no way that family would not have hired someone to assist them with all this.
I mean, a lot of middle-class families look at their children as free labor.
You think this is a middle-class family?
Upper middle class, even wealthy class, they look at their children as, I don't have to pay for help because I have kids. I can make them do it. And all of these kids are of the age where you could tell them to do something, and if they wanted to, they would do it. In the lobby stands a man in a police uniform trying to get anyone to stop for a second and talk to him. Have you tried that, Joe?
What do you mean?
Dressing as a policeman and then invading people's homes and just trying to get people to talk to you?
I can get people to talk to me. I can get plenty of people to talk to me. I can't get laid. See, that's the problem. I get plenty of talking.
That man is Harry, and he's not a cop, but we'll get there.
Harry is played by Joe Pesci. For the podcast, we've seen him in Raging Bull and Goodfellas. And we both, George and I, that is, have seen him in Lethal Weapon 2, 3, and 4. And I've seen him in The Irishman, With Honors, and JFK.
In the master bedroom, Kate McAllister, the mom who lives there, is packing her suitcase and talking on the phone to really hammer home that this family is going on a trip. Kate McAllister is played by Catherine O'Hara. For the show, we've seen her work in Away We Go, The Nightmare Before Christmas, we heard her in that one, and Beetlejuice. We've both seen her in Dick Tracy, and I've seen her in Wyatt Earp, and A Series of Unfortunate Events. Our main protagonist, 8-year-old Kevin McAllister, comes in to very calmly ask his mother why his uncle won't let him watch a movie that the bigger kids can. She doesn't bother to actually give him an answer that's worth a damn.
We actually get to see a clip from that picture. Why couldn't he watch it? Really?
Right.
It doesn't seem anything particularly couldn't see on a PG-rated movie. Anyway,
Kevin McAllister is played by Macaulay Culkin, and I've seen him in Uncle Buck. The main dad, Peter McAllister, comes out of the bathroom to tell Kevin to pick up his Micro Machines toys because his aunt almost broke her neck on them.
Peter McAllister is played by John Hurd. I've seen him in The Pelican Brief and Marathon Man.
And I've seen him in Big and Gladiator. Kevin's aunt tells him to pack his suitcase, which induces a state of existential dread because this 8-year-old doesn't know how to put things in containers.
And yet, he somehow knows a lot of mechanics. How to put together pulleys and all sorts of stuff, but we'll get to that.
Yep.
But he doesn't know how to pack. Okay.
And a sibling, or cousin, I can't tell which, informs him that he has to sleep on a hide-a-bed with his bedwetting younger cousin.
This house is so full of people, it makes me sick. When I grow up and get married, I'm living alone. Did you hear me? I'm living alone! I'm living alone!
He sounds great.
Yeah. Then we meet Buzz McAllister, Kevin's oldest, obnoxious, definitely grows up to be a right-wing prepper brother, informing a cousin that his pet tarantula just ate a bunch of mice guts, so it doesn't have to be fed for a while.
Buzz McAllister is played by Devin Rattray, and I've seen him in Hustlers.
Kevin comes in to ask if he can sleep in Buzz's room. That's a no, in a much less polite way. But then they hear a scraping sound, and they all rush to the window.
Check it out, old man Marley.
Who's he?
You ever heard of the South Bend Shovel Slam?
No.
That's him. Back in '58, murdered his whole family and half the people on his block. With the snow shovel. Been hiding out in this neighborhood ever since.
None of that is true. And there's no reason to believe it in the first place. The guy is shoveling salt onto icy sidewalks. We'll hear about it later. For now, we'll just introduce him.
Marley is played by Roberts Blossom. For the podcast, we've seen him in The Last Temptation of Christ, and I've seen him in Christine and The Hospital. You know, real quick about this spooky man. All right, so he's basically their next-door neighbor.
Mm-hmm.
The family would know him.
Yep.
It'd be impossible for me to believe that they would not know anything about this man. And they wouldn't tell the kids, oh, this is Mr. Blah, blah, blah. He's next door. If you ever need anything, you can go to him or whatever. It doesn't make any sense.
Agreed. Outside, down the street, a pizza delivery driver races towards the McAllister home. In front is a bronze statue of someone holding a lantern, and every car that comes to this house knocks it over, starting with this one.
How many times do they repeat that joke? Is it as much as they repeat the joke of him putting on the Alcavelva on his face and going, ah!
No, but we'll get there.
This film repeats jokes a lot.
I think it's 4 times in this movie that they knock over that statue. That driver's there to deliver 10 pizzas for $122.50, which in today's money is almost $300. Eventually, Peter stops long enough to answer some questions from the cop, like, where are you going and what kinds of security do you have? You know, standard random visiting cop questions. He still doesn't pay the pizza guy.
It is interesting that no actual cop stops by. In a neighborhood like that, it does make sense to the cop to stop by and like, I want to make sure everything's okay. Are you guys going away? So I guess it's easy for someone to pretend to be a cop.
I don't think that would be normal at all. I don't think police departments ever do that.
In a big city, no. For a suburb with this many rich people in it, I don't know.
I lived in the suburbs. They don't do that.
You didn't live in the rich suburbs.
They don't go house to house talking to the denizens of the homes about how much security they have.
Okay.
Because that would condition them to expect that, meaning somebody else could do that. Like, it should have... These adults should have been like, what's your badge number? I want to call the station and make sure you're actually a cop. In the kitchen, 2 things happen to send Kevin into a violent rage. First, he sees his bedwetting cousin downing a productly placed Pepsi. He's also being ruthlessly teased by Buzz about nobody leaving him any plain cheese pizza. He shoves his brother into a counter, spilling soda and milk all over their collective passports and airline tickets.
Which are there because...
That's a terrible place to keep them, yes, Joe. As they clean up, we see one folio of airline tickets gets tossed into the trash with some wet napkins. Things calm down and everyone is mad at Kevin. Kate starts hauling him upstairs, finally stopping to pay the pizza guy. Kevin catches the glint of a gold tooth in Harry before he excuses himself. Upstairs, Kevin objects to having to sleep with his bedwetting cousin, so his mom sends him to sleep in a big-ass bed alone in the attic.
Everyone in this family hates me.
Then maybe you should ask Santa for a new family.
I don't want a new family. I don't want any family. Families suck.
Just stay up there. I don't want to see you again for the rest of the night.
I don't want to see you again for the rest of my whole life. And I don't want to see anybody else either.
I hope you don't mean that. You'd feel pretty sad if you woke up tomorrow morning and you didn't have a family.
No, I wouldn't.
Then say it again. Maybe it'll happen.
I hope I never see any of you jerks again.
I can't remember who it was, but years ago, and I hadn't even seen the picture, but I was talking to some guy, and he was saying, like, he saw that scene, and he gasped, because the way his child is talking to his mother, he said would never happen in his house.
Yeah, no. It's really disrespectful, and the mother is not actually helping here. She escalates it.
Yeah.
When she, just by saying, maybe you should ask Santa for a new family, that's not good momming. That is just stroking the flames there for no fucking good reason.
The parents here clearly have a lot more problems than that. Including one glaring one that we'll get into later. Not just, leaving his child behind.
Mm-hmm. That night, with everyone nestled all snug in their beds while visions of sugar plums dance in their heads, a winter wind strips decorations from homes and branches from trees. One takes out power to the block. In the morning, everyone is still asleep when the airport shuttle arrives because nobody put in or checked batteries in their alarm clocks and they didn't have cell phones that would stay on in a power outage to use like I do.
True. That's the problem with 1990.
Yep. That's the problem with 1990.
The only problem, really.
The only one. The power is restored just before they wake up, realize they slept in, and whip into a flurry of activity. A neighbor kid comes over to investigate and annoy the drivers, and accidentally ends up getting counted in their head count right before they speed off to the airport.
Now, look, I get it. They have to set this up just right so they can explain how they're missing this kid. However, a child from across the street or wherever he's supposed to live comes into this situation. Other kids are going to say, hey, that's blah, blah, blah. There's no way he's just going to be counted because the other kids are going to notice. We know this kid. We're either friends with him or we hate him or something. They would know him.
Yep. A utility worker informs them as they're leaving that their power is fixed, but their phone lines are down. It will probably stay that way until after the holidays. Yep.
Also not true. They're not going to be down until after the holidays.
Yeah, no, they'll be working on Christmas Day.
No, they work, I think, before Christmas as well.
Not for him.
We'll discuss it.
Not for the McAllister house. They can't call that house. They can call houses on the block, just not the McAllisters.
I don't know. I think that was everybody, but okay.
At the airport, we get a rushing to their plane montage backed by Run Run Rudolph. Just as they buckle their seatbelts, back at home, Kevin wakes up, and after a bit of investigating, finds that the only ones there are himself and Buzz's tarantula. In the basement, he imagines the furnace attacking him and takes off.
I mean, I get it. He's up in the attic, so maybe there isn't that much noise that goes up there, but this kid's a heavy sleeper. Everyone's running around like maniacs. I think he would have heard something.
Yep.
The alarm's going off all at the same time.
The alarms weren't going off at the same time. The alarms weren't going off at all.
Did they? All right, whatever. Anyway, so them screaming and yelling, running around, I think that would have alerted his attention. But that kid sleeps.
Yep. It finally clicks for him that he made his family disappear. I mean, he didn't. But he can't know that, according to the rules of a John Hughes script. At first, he's a bit bummed, but then he remembers that they're all a bunch of colossal jerk faces, and he rejoices. We get another montage, this time of Kevin going buck wild in the house, running around, going through his brother's stuff, calling out to his not-present family to challenge them to stop him, and eating a giant bowl of all things sugary while watching a black and white gangster movie called Angels with Filthy Souls, which is a porn title if there ever was one. The least believable thing is that at no point did he run around the house naked.
I thought the least believable thing is that he didn't get a stomach ache.
Yeah.
I done the whole, hey, let me eat as much candy and sweets as I want. Did not work out well for me as a child. It wouldn't work out for me as an adult either. After a while, that shit ain't tasty no more. It's painful.
That night, we see Harry again, this time in a plumber's van, talking with his buddy Marv, showing him all of the timed lights on the block. They are the wet, bandits who burgle homes, then clog the drains and leave the water running to add insult to injury, I guess.
Marv is played by Daniel Stern. I've seen him in Diner, Hannah and Her Sisters, Stardust Memories, and A Small Circle of Friends.
I've seen him in Little Monsters. I've both seen him in City Slickers.
For some reason, I kept thinking, and he doesn't really look like him, but I don't know, so I don't know why I was making this connection, but I kept thinking he was the son from the Rodney Dangerfield movie, Back to School.
Which we saw for the podcast.
Yeah. But he isn't.
He's not.
It doesn't even look like him, but I don't know why I kept making that connection.
Those guys slink around the McAllister home, and Kevin notices them running to turn on the lights in the basement when they try to get in. Harry was sure that they were all supposed to be gone, but they don't want to risk capture, so they bail. Kevin runs upstairs to hide under a bed.
Instead of running to the neighbors or something.
Yeah. Well, almost.
There are neighbors.
No, but
we can get into that.
Yeah, well, I do get into that slightly.
And not just the old man I'm talking about.
Nope. When the rest of the family gets to Paris, Kate bullies a woman off the phone, then tasks the rest with calling everyone they can in Illinois to get someone to check on Kevin. As it so happens, literally everyone in that town can afford to go somewhere else for Christmas, and apparently nobody has family come to them in that town.
Except that we see that they do.
We do, and I'll mention it later.
Yeah.
Kevin steals his nerves and runs out of his house to challenge the would-be intruders. He runs into Old Man Murphy, gets scared, and then runs back into the house. This
man, you would think, what is this young child? Didn't his family leave? Huh, that's weird. It doesn't even occur to me even to ask. At no point does anybody find it odd that this child is running around without his family around Christmas time when the family clearly has a bunch of kids at that house. He must have heard. He's seen them up in the window as he's shoveling snow, putting salt down. So he knows there's a bunch of kids in that house. For some reason, now there's just one, and he never at any point goes like, that's weird.
Yep. His mom gets a hold of the Chicago PD, and they send a unit out, but Kevin isn't answering the door at night right now, thank you very much, and they report that nobody's home.
Fine police work.
There are no flights out of Paris for 2 days. Kate decides to stay at the airport, hoping for a standby seat while the rest of the family goes and celebrates with their other family in Paris. In the morning, Kevin wakes up and talks to himself in the mirror, running through all the grown-up showering he's done. He slaps aftershave on and screams when it burns. He'll do that again later.
And then later.
No, he only does it twice.
It's only twice? Felt like more.
Twice.
He seems incapable of learning, so I figured it was more than that. Although he is a genius with electronics and booby traps. The kid's a little sociopath, let's face it.
He's not a little genius with electronics.
Not electronics, I'm sorry. He's a little genius with booby traps.
Yeah, with physics. He needs to go buy a toothbrush, so he raids his brother's room, wrecking the shelving and releasing the tarantula in the process.
Does that tarantula play any part in this movie? I don't remember.
Yes.
Okay.
In the house across the street, the wet bandits are burgling and hear Peter McAllister leave a message confirming that they are in Paris.
Now, if the phone can work there, how come it can't work at the McAllister's house?
Because there's individual phone lines running to each house and only one of them was down.
I don't think that's how it works.
That's how phone lines work, Joe.
No.
Just like there's individual power lines. You can take down a common power line to all of them, but you can also take down individual power lines to any of them, and you can do that with phone lines too.
No, I think if the phone can work there, you should really try and call his son. We at least should see some of them calling like, yeah, the phone line is still down.
I can just assume that they did that.
But this family, how can you assume that?
Kevin goes to a store to buy a toothbrush and gets so scared when Old Man Murphy shows up that he runs out of the store without paying, then gets chased through a park by a cop, escaping by sliding through a frozen lake full of skaters.
Why does he do that? Does he? I mean, I guess we're supposed to believe he really does think he made his family disappear and he's going to live alone by himself in that big house?
Okay, then why does he do what then?
No, I just understand why does he run away from the cops?
Because they're chasing him.
Yes, but he's a child living alone, which that concept we should understand. He's not going to be able to live in that house forever by himself. He's going to need assistance.
I mean, for as smart as this kid is supposed to be, the thought of, oh, fuck, no, let me just walk back there. Let me say, hey, cop, I'm scared of this guy that was in the store. Can you escort me back there so that I can pay for this toothbrush?
That was also a possibility, sure.
That's asking too much of John Hughes' script writing.
You're saying it wouldn't be a movie if that happened.
Right.
So this is a because the script says so moment.
Yeah,
okay.
This is, by the way, this movie is a cartoon.
Oh, 100%.
It has cartoon rules.
Yeah, because people get things happen to them horribly, and it's not a serious injury.
Yep.
But since we're stopping to discuss real quick, I was watching Cisco and Ebert, and they were talking about this movie, and they hated it. But they thought, it is actually a very important time in a child's life, the first time you get to be alone, home alone. And it's very exciting. And they wish that was what the movie was about. But I'm thinking I remember the first time I was home alone. I don't think it would have made an exciting movie, though. I enjoyed myself, but I don't think it would have been another Killer of Sheep where absolutely nothing would have happened. Do you remember your first time you were left home alone?
No.
Really?
I was very
excited.
I don't think I was, because my mom didn't. I mean, she worked a little bit. I don't remember the first time, but I remember one time, and me and my brother almost killed each other, and my brother called the police, and then my mom had to quit her job, and she was really pissed off.
Oh my God, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, fortunately, nothing like that happened to me. When I was alone, I really was alone. I was told, don't answer the phone, don't answer the door, don't turn on the oven. Here's the television, sit there, watch, and we'll be back in a couple of hours. I think my mother had to go do something, and the rest of my brothers and sister were gone, and because my grandmother was also living with us, and she was also gone, so I was there by myself, and it was great.
Yep.
But wildly uneventful.
On the way home, he sees the wet bandits and notices Harry's gold tooth again. Then he realizes that they're the big bads of the movie. He loses them by hiding in a church manger scene. That night, he rigs a bunch of cutouts and mannequins to make the house look populated and partying. The wet bandits are fooled by this because the script said they had to be.
Also, how did he know they would come at that time for him to put that all together?
He just assumed. Because the script said so, Joe. Yeah.
Because the script says exactly. How would he know to put that all together, let alone when they're going to arrive at the exact time so he can make sure the things are all moving? And again, you have to wonder, his old man neighbor is not curious about any of this. He doesn't notice any of this going on.
Mm-hmm.
Wait a minute. How come they didn't try and break into his house? Did they know? I guess they knew he was home?
Yeah, they knew who was home and who wasn't. I mean, Harry had been surveilling the block for a while. That's how he knew when all the houses' lights came on.
I guess he knew the old man would be home.
Yeah. The bandits decide to wait one more night. Later, Kevin orders a pizza, gives a bad tip, and then uses that gangster movie to torment and frighten the delivery driver.
For what? What was that for?
Good question, Joe.
The kid's a little psychopath.
He is. He's a little bastard.
There's no reason to do. What did the poor delivery driver do? Also, you would have to be pretty stupid to not recognize a real voice and a recording voice. The guy should recognize, wow, that sounds like it's on TV.
Yep. In Paris, all but Kate are having a lovely time while Peter keeps phoning around. Buzz and another kid have a conversation. A sister is worried about Kevin. Buzz thinks their town is so boring that they don't have to be. Kate manages to trade her first-class tickets, $500, a pocket translator, watch, and a ring for a coach ticket back to the U.S. Again, tickets have names on them. I don't know how the fuck this happens. At home, Kevin says goodnight to a family photo and falls asleep watching Johnny Carson.
As all 8-year-olds do.
Yeah.
Yeah, he'd be a real big Johnny Carson fan. Late night television is really geared towards children. Yeah, wait a minute. That's right. He does watch a cartoon at some point, doesn't he? I can't remember. Does he ever actually watch any children's shows?
I have no idea.
I don't think he does.
In the morning, Kevin does another hygiene scene, then goes grocery shopping. He gets a lot of stuff and rolls a nat 20 on a deception check against the cashier. And the only time I really feel any empathy for this kid is when he's walking home because both of his grocery bags break. What is it about John Hughes movies and just like a one moment? Like the one moment in Breakfast Club that I laughed at was when the Ali Sheedy character reaches over and grabs the knife. There's one moment in this where I can feel any empathy for the kid. Like, John Hughes movies have one good moment in them.
No, you'll have to mention that to him the next time he visits.
Yep, I guess I will. When he gets home, he does some laundry. He also conquers his fear of the furnace in the basement.
What was that supposed to symbolize? That seemed
I mean, basements are scary sometimes. We saw that in A Christmas Story, too. It's broad daylight, and the wet bandits show up to case the joint again. Kevin uses that Angel's tape and firecrackers to scare them off, but overhears them say that they'll be back around 9 p.m.
Okay, again, I repeat. I guess maybe the old man wasn't home? He doesn't, because I guess he didn't hear the firecrackers?
Guess not. We know he goes to stores sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Kate gets stuck in Scranton, Pennsylvania. Lo and behold, an angel appears in the form of Gus Polinski, a leader of a traveling polka band.
Gus Polinski is played by John Candy. For the podcast, we've seen him in The Blues Brothers, Stripes, Little Shop of Horrors, and Spaceballs. And I've seen him in 1941, JFK, and Volunteers.
And I've seen him in Uncle Buck.
You know, Volunteers is the movie I keep confusing with the Joe versus the Volcano. I keep thinking that's the same movie, and it's not.
Have you seen Joe vs. Volcano yet?
No, I thought I did, but it's Volunteers is what I saw. I don't know why those two are in my brain. They must have come out similar times or something. Or something about them makes me... I guess they're both Tom Hanks movies, maybe?
I mean, if he's in both of them, then yes, they're both Tom Hanks movies.
Oh, you don't know? I thought you saw Joe versus the Volcano.
I haven't seen Volunteers.
Oh, yeah, he's in Volunteers. Yes, sorry.
So that polka band is driving their way up to Milwaukee, and they'd be more than happy to take Kate as far as Chicago. So that happens.
Yeah, it does happen.
At night, Christmas Eve, before the burglars come, Kevin hunts down a Santa Claus to ask for his family back.
This kid is not that stupid. Come on.
Well, I mean, he goes up to the Santa Claus. He's like, I know you're not the real Santa.
Oh, no.
But I know you work for him.
Oh, that I believe. No, just that this... I just think it's like, all right, I'm going to have wish my family back. This kid is clearly brilliant, and yet somehow a complete idiot. I don't get it.
Kevin walks back past families that I guess their family didn't have phone numbers for.
Yeah.
Being visited by their relatives from somewhere else.
Yeah. And he could have at any point gone in there and go like, hey, I'm all alone. There are burglars driving around.
Yep. So Kevin stops at a church and ends up talking with Old Man Murphy. Turns out he's not a murderer. He had an argument with his son years ago. He hasn't seen or spoken with his son or granddaughter in years, and it makes him sad. Nowadays, I find it hard to imagine what that argument could have been about that would lead to that kind of distance that would be forgivable. Kevin says, hey, you should call your kid.
Okay. I found that... Explain this to me. Okay, so he sees his granddaughter on the stage, right? Because his granddaughter's in the choir.
I guess so.
So where's his grandson?
I don't know.
I'm sorry, where's his son? Where's his son?
No idea.
Where's the mother? I mean, that child isn't there by themselves, unless she was also home alone. It was just weird because he's saying like, oh, that's my granddaughter up there. My son and I had a fight. So I'm like thinking, well, where's your son then? Shouldn't he be there?
Yep.
Also, again, Kevin doesn't go to the church for help, doesn't tell the old man, hey, there's these burglars riding around, that I'm smart enough to know to put up devices for them, but not smart enough to tell other people about them.
Yep. From there, Kevin rushes home to prepare the famous gauntlet of booby traps that the film franchise is known for, and that makes this what the coach in Letterkenny describes as a moving meditation on pain. I call it a cartoon. And I'm not going to describe it all. Suffice it to say that by the time the wet bandits finally catch up to Kevin, in the house across the street, they are burned, bruised, sliced, stabbed, seared, tarred, and feathered past reason. It is only through the intervention of Old Man Murphy and his shovel that this can still be called a comedy.
Yeah, these guys would be dead. He would have killed these men.
Or they would have killed Kevin.
Or they would have killed, yeah, they got their hands on him, but the first couple of attacks would have killed them. I mean, just that paint can straight in the face would have taken them out permanently. I mean, like, give me a break. This kid's a psychopath. And again, could have at any point gotten help. And also, I know this is a minor point here, but what the hell? I'm shitting on the movie. I might as well keep shitting. There, as someone else pointed out, that I just happened to be listening to a podcast where they were talking about Home Alone, just randomly. They were talking about other stuff, and Home Alone came up for some reason. A family that rich would have homeowners insurance, so let them steal stuff from your house.
Yeah, but
everything's irreplaceable.
Again, this is an 8-year-old.
I know. He probably wouldn't know about homeowners insurance, but the audience does. It's like, so what is this for?
So the police come and haul the wet bandits away, remarking that their calling card gives the police a solid case to make.
And for some reason, nobody thinks it pertinent to talk to the child who just had to deal with these two guys, who I would think we call, what's the word, witness?
Yeah. And so you asked about the tarantula. What happens is Kevin reaches up, grabs a tarantula, and drops it on Marv's face.
Oh, I completely missed that.
Yep. And that makes Marv freak out.
I saw all the other violence, and somehow I missed that one.
Yep.
There's just so much going on.
The next day, Kevin wakes up to find presents under the tree before Kate walks through the door. Yeah, Santa Claus came.
Sure, why not?
Shortly after, the rest of the family arrives because it took them just as long to get back as Kate did, just with less John candy. Reconciliations happen. Across the street, he sees Old Man Murphy hugging his son and granddaughter, waving to him. And at home, everyone is happy to see him until Buzz sees the damage to his room. The end.
All right. What did you think, my friend? Does this still work? Did it ever work?
Yeah, I think it works.
Elaborate.
It's a cartoon. Like, as long as you... I hate when I make a conclusion that I immediately start with, if you bear in mind this one thing about it that is sort of exculpatory, but it's not a serious movie by any stretch. It is a comedy, and people, especially if you're seeing it for the first time, probably find it funny. It's white as fuck.
Well, it's a John Hughes movie.
Yep. Every one of those 11 kids fits nicely into a gender binary, but, it's a cartoon. And like the bad guys, I don't have any empathy for the bad guys in this one because they were bad. They were bad in like even burglary I can get if you're doing it to survive or whatever. But these guys like did damage to people's homes as a calling card. Fuck you guys.
Well, I certainly don't have any empathy for them. It just seems to me, all right, just because someone breaks, I know this is America and people will find this shocking, but just because someone breaks into the house doesn't mean you get to do whatever the fuck you want to them.
I mean, that's true.
There are limits. I understand people automatically start shooting and shit, but if someone breaks into your house and you sexually assault them, you have still committed a crime, even if they broke into your house.
Yes.
It doesn't absolve you just because they broke in. So there are things this kid is doing that are definitely crimes.
Right. They may be crimes, but I also don't necessarily think that they're unethical. I think a child against two grown adults has the right to bring whatever he can to bear against them.
I still think retreat is. I mean, if it's gets a blowtorch and pits on someone's head, you are crazy. There's something seriously wrong with you.
But again, right. I think he does have a masterful grip of physics.
Yes, he does. All right, this is a terrible movie. I did not care for it. Do I think it still works? I think it works in an exact way the creators meant it to work. It's padded at the very beginning, and at the end, it's violence that kids can relate to. I can see kids watching this for many, many years, enjoying the adults getting the shit kicked out of them. And that's really the only part of this movie that I think people, well, I said that at the beginning.
It's what everybody waits for. It's just that scene. Yeah.
Yeah, those scenes. Yeah.
Those
series of scenes of this kid fucking these two guys up. Beyond that, people could care less about this movie.
Yep.
If it wasn't for the violence at the end, this would have already been forgotten. It would not have been the huge hit that it was. And it would have been like, 15 sequels or whatever it was. Yeah, I didn't care for it. I would never want to see it again. Although this is my second viewing, but only for the podcast. It's because I see it again. But, does it work? It works for what it is. So yeah, it still works.
Alrighty. I'm done talking about it.
What's up next?
Next week, we'll be talking about Audition from 1999.
This is a film you're unfamiliar with, I take it?
Completely.
It is Korean horror. That's all I'll say.
Okay.
We haven't done that too many horror movies, have we?
We've done very few.
Yes.
I'm not a big fan of horror movies, Joe.
Well, you might enjoy this one.
Here's hoping.
So I guess that's it for this episode. I'm Joe Dixon. Thanks for listening.
And I'm George Romaka. Thanks for listening indeed, because if a podcast drops and there's no one around to hear it, it's just another collection of ones and zeros that doesn't matter.
Excuse me. Look, I have been awake for almost 60 hours. I'm tired and I'm dirty. I have been from Chicago to Paris to Dallas to... Where the hell am I?
Scranton.
I am trying to get home to my 8-year-old son. And now that I'm this close, you're telling me it's hopeless.
I'm sorry.
No, wait. This is Christmas! The season of perpetual hope.
Ma'am, if...
And I don't care if I have to get out on your runway and hitchhike. If it costs me everything I own. If I have to sell my soul to the devil himself. I am going to get home to my son.
I'm sorry, I know we're closing out, but I just realized she seems way more upset about their child missing or being left home than the father. Well, I just realized that.
I mean, this
one's going bananas. And the father's like, let's go back to the parents. Oh, it'll be fine, whatever.
I mean, that's kind of normal, though. That's a lot of fathers thinking that taking care of the kids is the mom's job. So I buy it in this universe.
You've been listening to Does This Still Work? Produced by Joe Dixon and George Romaka. The hosts can be reached via social media, email, or the contact page at dtswpod.com. Be good to yourself and others, because that still works.
And I was tempted to do that whole paragraph as like a Night Before Christmas poem, but fuck it.
You got lazy.
Yeah. What would the world be like if plastic never existed? Why isn't it 119 2 tween 3 15? Why do phone keyboards go 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 0 from the top, starting in the top left, and calculators go the opposite with 1 on the bottom left? What is a phrase that you made up? Why don't they make audiobooks with closed captions for people who can't hear?
Is listening to an audiobook the same as reading a book?
Do I have to give a celebrity the right of way when walking if their security tells me to?